On January 27th, 2023, Yandex, the Russian search engine, allegedly had a former employee leak a part of their source code. Inside that leak were over 1,900 different page rank factors used by Yandex to rank websites. In this video, I'm gonna go over this leak in more detail and recap what's been said so far. I'm gonna go over what this leak means for you and the broader SEO community. And I wanna dig into the 1,900 page rank factors that have been leaked and go through a few of them and give you my take and what I plan on doing to my websites given this new information. If you like this kind of content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. So let me just get to my screen and let's get into it. So the first thing I wanna show you is the actual leaked information. You can see here that if you scroll through, this is the page rank factors that were leaked, and right now it's being hosted on webmarketingschool.com in one of these folders. I'll include a link down below, but you can see here it's all in Russian. Now, the first website that I saw cover this was Search Engine Land, and they, again, are basically saying that it was a leak, not a hack, and Yandex is also saying it was a hack. It was a leak, not a hack, because the content was published on a popular hacking forum, approximately 44 gigabytes of information or files. It was also covered by this RussianSearchNews.com website, actually a day before Search Engine Journal did, and you can see all the different things that were leaked. Now, given how fast the internet moves, they've already taken this file, which is again in Russian, and dumped it into Ajishi and has translated it. It was done by this Twitter handle YitGitKanor, and then other people have built tools that you can now search this information without actually being able to, you can actually now search it. So that's really cool. It's worth calling out that a lot of the factors that are in here are actually deprecated or unused, or basically not really, according to the notes, don't really apply. And that's okay. And that still doesn't really take away from the value that this leak has for SEOs and SEO at large, because we can learn a lot about how search engines work. So let me just take a moment to talk about what this leak means for the broader SEO community, at least in my opinion. Now, again, it's obvious that Yandex is not Google. Google is not Yandex. So the things we're learning from this leak from Yandex doesn't necessarily apply one-to-one to Google. Of course, they are both search engines. And for me, the big takeaway is like, okay, we're understanding how search engines and what they're actually capable of. So now that we have this at our fingertips, we can actually say, oh, okay, well, it's possible that a search engine actually is tracking how many people directly go to Google or any website and type you directly into the search bar, like direct visits versus through a search engine. That's something we found in this page rank factors that were leaked. Other things like click-through rate on the search results, or how often people, how often the websites use Google Analytics, things like that, which we didn't, SEOs kind of theorized that maybe search engines were using, but now we have actual proof that at least at one point, Yandex was using this to rank websites. And it's possible Google is too. Of course, there's no way we would know, but just knowing that information is a lot, is really helpful for SEO at large. Now, if I go back to my screen here, I just want to show you a couple of threads about the whole Google is not Yandex thing. So Google and Yandex, according to this Twitter thread here, was, these guys were published or registered on this near the same date. And it's funny that she's putting this up because basically she's saying they're a lot more similar than most people think. And if you go to a couple different threads, I was skimming through, there are some people that are very that say this is like a total waste of time to even like consider or look at. And I don't agree with these people because, I haven't seen so much useless data in my SEO career. What's all the hype about? Like, you're getting inside the mind of a search engine, right? You're actually seeing how they decided to rank pages at a given time. Again, some of these factors are deprecated. That's okay. You're just getting data points and things to consider. So I just want to cover sort of my take on like, okay, this isn't actually Google, so do we care? We do care. And these are some of the things I'm thinking about. And the next thing I want to cover is the actual rank factors and my take on them and what I'm doing about some of this new information. There are a bunch of SEOs that are digging into the leaked documentation and publishing what they're finding. So we're gonna just dive in and go through a couple of examples here. The one that I really liked and the thread that I've been following the most is this guy, Alex Burax. He has published a couple different threads, and I'm gonna just go through this one Definitely encourage you to follow this guy. Really great analysis. Again, there's so many rank factors. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me to dig into them all. Of course, you can use a tool like this Yandex Explorer tool and just type in various words. In this case, you can just type in the word good. And one factor that actually caught my eye was this: what is the share of good links? Which is interesting. It's like, okay, does that mean that Google or Yandex have been looking at, or been grading links? And then on the flip side, is there a bad corresponding, factor? And there is. How many bad links? So this is just an example of like, oh man, like if Google's looking at links and grading them as bad, and we have bad links, that's bad. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I have a blacklist of over 11,000 websites that I'm considering bad. So this kind of falls in line with that. Anyway, let's go back to Alex and go through line by line. So he has this thread here, and he has a couple of things he says. Again, he also says, Yandex was built as a Google clone. There are people that have been working on Yandex or were working on it that were also Googlers. So really interesting stuff. So the first thing I want to cover that he covers is age of links as a ranking factor. So he found that. And this makes a lot of sense, right? We've talked about this, or I've talked about this. Basically, links have expiration. Like when you build a link today, it's going to decay over time. Google will value it probably the most as soon as the first time it finds it. And over time, you're going to want to build more links, or the value of links that you have are just going to, again, decay, and you're probably going to lose your rankings. Then you're going to be like, why did I lose my rankings? Well, have you been building fresh links? This is sort of getting at that, and sort of proof that, Google and Yandex and search engines in general do have some sort of decaying value. Number 2, traffic and percent of organic links. So in this case, he's alluding to that PPC can affect rankings. And I kind of agree with this, kind of disagree. I think you just want more than just organic traffic. That's kind of my takeaway from this one. Number 3, numbers and URLs is bad for rankings. This goes like hand in hand with the whole clean URLs that look pretty. You don't want a bunch of numbers in your URL. So if you had this in your URL that you were trying to rank a page, it's not a good look. You don't want numbers. You prefer it to be something like that. And that's what this is getting at. And this is not new news. I think most people know this. Number 4, a lot of trailing slashes. So what this is like, okay, how many trailing slashes is being used? Like if you have a baby site, for example, and you're like, baby trailing slash diapers, trailing slash, small diapers, trailing slash red color, this is basically what this is getting at. And I think most of my sites have maybe 2 or 3 trailing slashes, or go 2 or 3 layers deep. This is interesting because, you've probably seen sites that don't even have trailing slashes. They just look like this. And this kind of supports if you're going to build a site, you probably want to just do that. It just looks better. And then you will just have to remember, the reason for trailing slashes is basically for site architecture. And if you create a site like a hub and spoke, you might create a site that looks more like, like this, where it has articles, then it has a subfolder. Anyway, this is just what this is getting at, and something that is like making me think, oh man, really I should be not doing that. I should just go, a post name off the root, which is interesting. And number 5 here is getting at hard pessimization. Basically, pessimization is another word for penalize, or at least that's what this article is getting at, which kind of makes sense. And what number 5 here is saying is basically like, if you've been penalized, your page rank, PR, goes to 0, which isn't good. Next one is number 6 here, and this is getting into host reliability. So 510 here. And by the way, if I go back to the original code and I just look for 510, you'll see it's right here, and it's again in Russian. So this one corresponds to this one this guy has reviewed. And number 6, what number 6 is getting at basically is nuts and bolts SEO. You don't want 404s or pages that is not being rendered by your server, which is the 5 code here. So again, pretty basic SEO. Remove any 404s on your site and make sure your server and your host is always there. And that's what number 6 is getting at. And number 7, it looks like there is preferential treatment for Wikipedia. So pages on Wikipedia boost the rank. That's what this one's getting at. Number 8, a lot of ranking factors are connected to user behavior. So in this one here, you can say corrected CTR of this URL for all related queries, countries, versions. So basically the takeaway for this one is you want people to click your URL in the search results. You want people to finish their search session with your website. You want them to hang out on your website for a long time, and you don't want them to click the back button. That's what number 8 is telling me. And again, this is all stuff we know, but it's being reinforced by the fact that we're actually seeing it in the code of a search engine. Number 9, and this is getting at document age and last update are both ranking factors. And how I'm thinking about this one is like content. Again, you want to refresh your content over time. If you publish an article, you're going to have to come back to it in 6, 8, 12 months, or else you can expect it's going to probably lose rank. And this is not rocket science. We understand this, but also last update. So you want to continue to update and maybe even republish, right? A last update, like you might just update an article with a couple hundred words, or you might republish the whole thing and like rewrite the article. So both of those things might be able to boost you in the search results. Average domain position across all queries. This one is an interesting one. So if you have content that isn't really ranking super well and it's been 3 to 6 months old, you might want to consider deleting it. This goes hand in hand with the whole pruning methodology or the pruning tactic that you may see around in the SEO community. And I've done this before myself. Basically, you just delete pages that aren't getting any search traffic, right? And this is what it is. This is what it's getting at. Pages without search traffic or are not ranking well, just get rid of them. And if this actually counts towards page rank, you can see a boost. So Alex actually has another thread here. Let me pull that up. All right, so he started his first thread, and now this is his second one. So let's go through this. Number 1 is crawl depth. Now this one is one that I talk about a lot, actually. I will run Screaming Frog and have the whole site crawled, and then what Screaming Frog will do, and this is not just Screaming Frog, by the way. Any SEO crawler will do this. It'll tell you how far from the homepage pages are. What's the depth from the homepage? And you don't want really anything less than 3. And even the most important pages, probably hub pages, 1 click from the homepage is ideal. So crawl depth, which is, again, it's interesting that we're seeing it in the results here. One other thing I'll mention is that weights. So the one thing that isn't shared in this leak is how much each of these ranked factors are weighted. And that's totally fine. Generally how I approach SEO and what I recommend most people is just you do everything. You assume it's all weighted equally and you just do everything. Sure, links are probably weighted heavier than crawl depth is, but you just maximize every signal and then you're going to be okay. You'll never know which one matters more than the other. So there's no sense in like, oh man, like I don't really know the weighting, so therefore I shouldn't do anything about it. No, you should. You should optimize your site for all the factors. So I just wanted to make a quick point on that. Let's keep going here. Number 2, additional ranking factors for orphan pages. You can easily find them via Screaming Frog. So again, orphan pages, pages that are not linked from anywhere on your site, but exist in your sitemap. That's usually an orphan page. That's what this one's getting at. Backlinks from main pages are more important than from internal pages. The way I'm interpreting this is like pages on your site that are hubs that are linked a lot, they're main. And if they're linking to other pages, those pages are important via internal links. So you just want to have good site architecture and you should be in good shape. The number of search queries of your site. So the way I'm interpreting this is people are Googling your brand name. That's how I'm interpreting this, number of queries per URL. So number of queries per domain. So I'm thinking this is branded search. It could just be that the queries are in the URL themselves. I think this is more branded search. That's how I'm thinking about it. Traffic from Wikipedia. So are you getting links from Wikipedia and are you getting any traffic from Wikipedia? I'm not sure how Yandex knows if you're getting traffic from Wikipedia, but if you are, great. So I think the takeaway here is get links from Wikipedia and get those links to have traffic. Number 6, if your URL would be the last for the search session. So we talked about this in the previous thread, but you want your page to be the last page people visit in their search session because ultimately they got what they were looking for. You fulfilled that searcher's journey, as they would say. So that's really good. So number 7, bookmarks are a ranking factor. So you might do with this one is you might try to encourage people to bookmark your page. I think this is probably among the lower, if I were to guess, in terms of weight. But hey, just add like do you like this article? Bookmark it. Like it takes 2 seconds to add something like that into a blog, and I'm sure there's a plugin for WordPress blogs to help people bookmark articles, and it could help you in the search rankings, and I probably will implement something like that. Special rank factors for short videos. So TikTok, Shorts, Reels, they have their own algorithm, so we'll ignore that one. Maps.js API on page. So if you actually have a map on the page for the query, if it makes sense, you might actually see a boost on your page. So if, say for example, you're a local plumber and you operate in the town, including a Google Map embed on your page might actually increase rankings. That's what this is getting at. So I would definitely do that if you have a local site. Number 10, keywords and URL is a ranking factor. So this is a pretty obvious one and one most people will do. Just put the keyword that you're trying to rank for in the URL, pretty obvious. Number 11, returning users is a ranking factor. So for this one, the takeaway for me is basically create a website, an article, a blog that's so valuable that people will want to go back to the article, or going back to what we just said, bookmark it. So they will literally type it in the search bar to go back to it. That's how valuable you want your articles to be. And if they're not, if they're just like run-of-the-mill content that really doesn't add any value, then that's not good. Number 12, percentage of capital letters in the title is a ranking factor. So don't put capital letters in your title. That's pretty much it. Number 13, percentage of direct traffic is a ranking factor. So this one's pretty straightforward and goes hand in hand with number 11 here. You want people to just like your website so much they type it into the search bar. If all of your traffic comes from organic search, that's not good. It's suspicious, basically, is what Alex is saying, and I totally agree. All of my websites, I try to create them in such a way that people will want to come back to those articles, and that's really important. Number 14, one or more ranking factors for content quality. So don't have broken embed. Number 14, this one's getting at broken embed videos on the page. If you like to embed YouTube videos on your in your articles or any type of video, make sure they work. Go back to the old articles and make sure those videos are still showing up. That's what this one's getting at. Number 15, verified accounts on social networks rank differently. So this one's basically if you have a YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and your brand name is in there, it's going to rank differently. So nothing too much to worry about here. Number 16, if your backlink anchors contain all words from the keywords, it's good. Basically, again, like we already know anchor text for backlinks is a good thing. So build links to your pages with keyword-rich anchor text, but vary it up. Don't go overboard, or you could run the risk of hurting your site because it's over-optimized. It could flag a penalty. So basically, think like if your target keyword is best vacuum cleaners, get a link that says, here are the best vacuum cleaners, something like that. Ratio of good to bad backlinks. I showed you this one earlier in the tool, the Yandex Explorer tool. Basically, what this one is saying, you want in a vacuum, all else being equal, you want good backlinks, not bad ones. And again, you have my blacklist. I'll include a link down below to download that. You don't want bad backlinks. And the way I like to think about bad backlinks is just links that are a part of link farms, actively selling links, don't have good quality content, things like that. So you just want less of these, more of these. Pretty straightforward. Number 18, the quality ranks of text on the domain is a ranking factor. I mean, again, if there's one thing to take away, you want the content on your site to be high quality, written, that's actually delivering value, isn't just like echoing the other 9 results. You want it to be moving the conversation forward, providing expertise, experience, things like that. For me, one of the biggest takeaways to make sure I'm answering quality, like is this quality content or not, are on-page metrics, scroll depth, take rate, dwell time, bounce rate. If these metrics are good, then more likely than not, the content is of quality. Number 19, this one's about advertisements. So basically, average ratio of adverts on the screen. You don't want lots of ads. I mean, I think it's always been understood that if it's over, there's obviously there's room for ads in the digital marketing landscape, but you don't want to overdo it. Keep it tasteful. Number 20, funny. There's a random as a separating rank factor. So this is like random factor for commercial websites. I don't really know what the takeaway is here. I think it's basically just like random. It's just some way of making it so that people can't game the system or figure out or reverse engineer anything. Number 21, I thought this was interesting. Basically, if the website includes the JavaScript from Google Analytics, you get a ranking boost, which is pretty interesting. And it's just like basically saying websites with Google Analytics tend to be good websites, not bad ones. And that's why that's probably in there. And number 22, backlinks from top 100 best websites by PageRank. I mean, this one's pretty straightforward. Is your website linked from other websites that have a lot of PageRank? Some of the biggest websites on the internet, like New York Times, for example, Washington Post. Do you have links from these websites? If you do, you're probably doing pretty good. If you don't, you're probably having a harder time. And I think most SEOs knew that this is a thing. I always kind of thought that Google had handpicked, call it 100 different websites that if you had gotten a link from them, you're at a different tier. And you probably also change rank depending on how far you are from those websites. Like for a page you're trying to rank, how does this page have links from these tier 1 websites or these high page rank websites? If not, how far are they from getting a link, right? Anyway, that's the idea behind this one. So that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to cover in this video. Just a recap of this whole Yandex leak. Some takeaways for you. I have a lot of things that I'm working on my site. I've already been working on most of these things, but it's good to just get like confirmation that search engines are considering these things, are thinking about these things. And hopefully this was valuable for you to just start thinking about your website in a different way and maybe optimizing things in a differently now that you know this is how Yandex was doing things at some point. Again, Yandex is not Google. Some of these search factors, these page factors are outdated and deprecated, but again, it gives you sort of a window into a search engine and how it works. So super interesting. If you like this kind of content, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.